Hello and welcome to Term 2 Prepping for Success Budgeting 101. The Prepping for Success series is aimed at getting key points of information out to students at specific points in the academic calendar. I would also like to acknowledge the Bedigal people, who are the traditional custodians of the land here at Kensington campus, and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. So without further ado, I will pass over to our presenter, Michael, today, who's going to run through the workshop on Budgeting 101.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, students. As Paul said, my name is Michael. I'm a student support advisor. Been at the university for probably longer than 3.5 years now. We've recently merged with our international student support advisors. And look, yeah, one of our main, kind of topics that we do focus on, that students bring to our attention a lot, is on financial matters, financial struggles, budgeting, and so on. So hopefully the next, say, 35 or 40 minutes or so, and of course questions at the end, will help you alleviate some of those stresses, give you some ideas and tips on how best to budget as a university student. All right, next slide, please, Paul. All right, so today's topic, as you can see there, we'll focus on those 5 mainly. I will probably touch a bit on how we can assist with financial assistance as well. But looking at our needs versus wants, what spending leaks are and how you can stop those. Working on SMART goals in terms of budgeting and finance, some budgeting tips, and saving and spending again as a university student. And we always say to our students, as a uni student, you are allowed to be very, for want of a better term, careful or tight with your money through your degree. All right, next slide, please. Our first topic, so needs versus wants. So you can see there, that image there, you've got wants and you've got needs. Think of it kind of more of a rhetorical sense in this case. What is a want financially? What is it that you want, but you could wait for to spend? And you can see there you've got coffees, takeaway foods, alcohol, maybe those kind of holiday luxury purchases that you want, but you necessarily can't afford at the moment, versus what you actually need now. Okay, so the need to be healthy, to be money minded, to have that need of, okay, I need to pay that next rental bill. I need to pay that Wi-Fi bill. I need to have groceries for a week, as opposed to, okay, oh, but I really want those shoes, or I want that dress, or I want that bit of food. Work out kind of strategically and smartly. Need first, want kind of second. Think of not stressing about it. Think of it logically, okay? What you can kind of financially map as a destination to where you want to be in 6 months' time, okay? The end of that lease. How are you going to save for that? What do you need to do to get to that next rent, that next bill? What do you need to spend versus what do I want to spend that can wait a little bit later, okay? So that's important with a lot of students, because that's where we see students go into some financial struggles. There will be, kind of unusual or kind of just inappropriate spending at times for university students that could elsewise have been saved or put towards that rent, that tuition fee, that textbook, that laptop. Okay, so think of what your priorities are again as a university student that you just need to budget on for the next little while. And look, for a lot of people, wants and needs are different. It may differ from your partner to your family, to your parents, to kind of friends as well. What is it for you? Okay, what is your budget? Your situation is going to be unique to someone else. What do you need to spend on at that time versus what can wait? What can be my want down the track, okay? All right, next slide, please, Paul. What are spending leaks and how much are those wants costing you? Okay, we know they add up. A lot of us, maybe all of us at time to time, are definitely guilty of it, okay? Spending on unnecessary wants and then realizing, okay, 1 or 2 weeks down the track, thinking, okay, why did I spend that? I had this phone bill due. Now I've got to go into my debt or ask someone to help out or kind of save for that kind of later. What are the wants costing you? Consider those spending leaks and how can you tighten them up, okay? A spending leak is an amount of money. It's almost spent on a whim, unconsciously, without thinking, okay, to purchase an item that might be regularly over that time, and it can add up to a significant amount of kind of savings or chunk taken out of your account, okay? And then because it's unconscious, you realize, okay, you're spending it maybe 3, 4, 5 times over a few months period or a yearly period. That can equate to a couple of $100 or $1,000 that you could have saved or put towards that need, okay, towards rent, towards saving for equipment, towards saving for a lease, okay? That's what you got to think about. What are those leaks are? How much are they costing you? How are you going to plug it? Okay, so once you're aware of that spending leak, that's excuse me, that's in your account, there are some options that you can do to go through it. One is to pretty much be ruthless about it. Try not to spend anything on that item at all. Okay, cut back on those spending leaks. So if it's a regular purchase of, for example, it could be going to fine dining or restaurants more often than needed, cut back on that, and we'll get to that down the track in the presentation as well. Or look for cheaper alternatives. Again, you're a university student, you're allowed to look for those cheaper alternatives to get you from A to B. That's going to save you those spending leaks in the long run. All right, next slide, please, Paul. All right, now some of you may have heard of SMART goals. Okay, so you got the acronym there, goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed. In regards to budgeting and finance, they come into it, okay? So goals such as, I want to be financially secure, or I don't want to be in a position where I'm stressed about money, while that's valid, highly valid, okay, that's a little bit vague and difficult to meaningfully, implement being the right word, in a strategic way. SMART goals, which they are specific, working towards one goal, measurable, over a certain time, something that can be measured, okay, over a certain time that you can achieve it, leading to achievable, knowing that it's achievable, something that you can actually attain, reach, target, and set, a goal that's realistic within your boundaries and timed, okay? So put a rough estimate time frame on that goal that you want to have this paid off by, okay, or this bill done by, this purchase, this need of a purchase done by. So time it so you've got something to work towards and save towards. And that's the thing. Look, there's no pressure to kind of get to it now, but you might work on this term 3, and there's no pressure to share it with anyone else. These goals are yours. We know finance is a personal thing, but think of a goal that you might want to achieve over the next 10 weeks, over the next 4 or 5 weeks by census date, and it might be having that monthly bill due. Okay, how are you going to achieve that? What wants are you not going to spend on so much, and what are you going to save more so on those needs, so that you definitely will have those funds to pay off that need. Right. Next slide, please, Paul. Okay, how does that tie in with the spending leaks? So how much are the leaks impacting the achievement of your financial goals? Again, going back to what I was saying previously, you might be unconsciously spending on certain wants and not thinking so much about it, thinking, yeah, no, okay, I've still got some savings there. I've still got some kind of loose ends there. I can borrow from a friend, I can borrow from family. But I guess given especially the current climate and situation of COVID, where jobs, part-time jobs, university students' jobs, families' finances overseas and onshore as well have been affected, how much has that, again, impacted the achievement of your financial goals? Take that as a rhetorical question. Think about that for a few seconds. If you've been impacted financially, think, okay, maybe it's time that me, personally, need to really start thinking about those spending leaks, how I can incorporate SMART goals, or how I can tie them up just so I won't be as stressed, okay, as anxious, as worried moving forward in regards to my financial goals. So take some time to think about, if you remove a few wants from your spending, from your savings account, think of how much you might save per week. How much would this affect the achievement of you working towards a certain financial goal that you set? And while during this presentation, you might even write down 1 or 2 goals that you want to achieve by, as said, by end of term, by end of year. How much would you need each week, savings wise, to start to achieve your financial goal? Now, for everyone, that might be different. You might need $100 or $200 towards this goal. Some might be a little bit higher. Think of what wants you want to less spend on, and think of how you're going to achieve this by what do you need, again, that word need, each week to start financially achieving your goals. And then visualize, think, okay, how can I see this being achieved? You may have to be ruthless. You may have to kind of really think, all right, coming into winter, what did I do last winter that I may not need to do this winter in regards to going out, spending subconsciously, going out for less dinners could be an option, okay? Cooking at home could be an option. And these will come into the next few slides where you can give you some tips and tricks on saving financially. And again, going back to the fact that you're a university student, regardless of age, regardless of international, domestic, undergrad, postgrad, it's time to kind of put that financial savviness first and work towards tightening up those spending leaks. All right, next slide. Thank you, Paul. Leading to planning ahead. So kind of going back, thinking, all right, what's that financial goal that I'm planning ahead, that I'm saving for? Is it a daily goal I'm working towards? Is it going to be a weekly or fortnightly goal? Or is it going to be an annually goal? So think about how important it is what you're spending your money on currently, what you need to spend your money on, so that you yourself can take control of your financial situation. You're the one who's in charge of that. Okay, you're the one who's spending on these needs, sometimes these wants. You're the person who can take control of this. Identify, and you may have to be ruthless with yourself a little bit, but identify what those leaks are, where they can be stopped, okay, and work out planning a bit of a daily, a weekly, a fortnightly kind of budget. So what you might spend on regularly and budgeting for what's coming ahead. Okay, so it can be, I guess, it can be harsh. It can be harsh to kind of work out, write down exactly, okay, what am I spending on? You think, okay, I didn't know I was spending that much on these items. But that's what it might need to take to write down exactly what you spend. And then working out, all right, these are my expenses. This is what I am spending on. What am I getting in? What are my incomes? Where's the difference there? What are my savings? And then what do my savings need to go towards? Okay, you can work out roughly as a start, as a draft, where you can start to put your money towards. You'll be able to see it. Okay, and then slowly those spending leaks will start to taper off. Those wants will start to taper off, not entirely, because you can still reward yourself, definitely still reward yourself, but don't make that a regular occurrence whilst you're a university student. Spend within your means and spend within your budget, okay? There's plenty of apps, trackers, banking apps, money saving apps that can help with that as well. And there's free financial counselors out there who can give advice. We as student support advisors, we go through some budgeting financial consultations to help students with that as well. And I'll show you at the end where we can be contacted and how to make an appointment with us as well. Old school can work as well. I mean, in the sense that, as I said, write down. You don't necessarily have to use the apps or the trackers or the notes on your phone. You can just still do old school, pen and paper. Draft down your weekly expenses, your fortnightly expenses. Stick it on your notebook, stick it on a fridge so you can see these are my expenses. Cross out what you need to cut off, work out what you need to save towards, and you'll gradually see those savings increase in your account. All right, next slide, please, Paul. All right, so once you've tracked your spend, this is just an example, you can use it towards an annual budget. Okay, and there are just some examples there on that image in front of you. You can see generally annually the main living expenses that students might go towards: food there, laptop or accessories there. It could go towards the foods, the drinking, petrol if you've got a car, and rent. Okay, so rent as a university student is a big one, be it on campus or off campus as well. You can use a spending diary for a budget tracker, or as I said, there will be notes, financial counselling, and apps there. What does an annual budget do? It pretty much lets you know that you're living within your means as a human being. Okay, it keeps track of the money that you regularly earn. Okay, so if you're earning it from a casual, from a part-time, from a full-time job, the wages that you get in, salary, interest, it could be Centrelink as well. That's called, so your income. Okay, so the incomings that you're getting, that's what you receive. The money you regularly spend, so generally on the needs, which is what we're focusing on, so it could be towards rent, phone bills, internet, living expenses, groceries, you're getting rid of that. Okay, so that's your expenses. That's what you're spending on. Okay, budgeting, having that in front of you on the app, on the old school pen and paper, on your notes tracker, gives you a visual representation of what your differences might be with your incomings and with your expenses. Okay, it assists you, most times it'll assist you to plan for the week, for the fortnight, month, or sometimes for the year ahead, and importantly, for the lifestyle that you as a student can afford. Again, not necessarily that you want to afford, but the lifestyle that you can afford by living within your means. Okay, it's a critical tool for helping you work out. So a budget is a critical tool for helping you as a student work out how much money you need to put away each week or each fortnight to be able to cover the regular bills and the regular needs so that you don't get yourself into financial stress. All right, next slide, please, Paul. So the slide coming up here is just an example of what a fortnightly budget may look like, just visualized and written down. As an example, you can see there the income on the left, wages, 850 a fortnight. On the right, there are all your outgoings. Okay, so your expenses, what you are putting your money towards regularly. $400 rent, $150 in food, $30 in power, $50 in petrol, $40 on takeaways, $20 on phones, $25 on alcohol and clothes, a $20 credit card debt, $40 entertainment. So those expenses total $800. Your income there is $850. The difference left is $50, which is yours. Okay, so that is left to save $50 per fortnight. So that's the need. Okay, so that's the need for you. That's savings. It goes towards something that you need to spend. That can go towards the next bill. Okay, the next rental income, the next laptop you need to purchase, the next textbook you need to purchase. Keep that away so you're using that money wisely. All right. Next slide. Thank you, Paul. Again, this is just a bit of a visual example what smart spending can be and what the cost of things these days especially can look like. Okay, sometimes it can feel like you are barely getting by financially, but it is possible to manage and work towards a savings goal, whatever that goal is. And again, it doesn't matter because everyone's situation is unique. You'll have your own savings goal. It's going to be different to mine. It's going to be different to your friends. It's going to be different to your families. Okay, this is your savings goal. You're the one who's going to work towards it. You need to be saving more than you're spending. Okay, that's the important thing. So that previous slide where you had the $850 income and the $800 expenses, that $50 of savings, that's yours. Okay, keep that, put that towards that next cost. So that is what you are saving. The importance of understanding the cost of things and whether you are kind of saving in the long run regularly, that can't be underestimated or understated. That is so important. And some little things to keep the cost of things there, like it said, down or at a minimum to suit you. Write a shopping list and have a rough idea of what things cost. Okay, so you can go in on your notes phone, write it down, do some research before, have a rough idea of what things might cost on that shopping list, and don't overspend when you go to the supermarket. Okay, just buy what you need. Separate needs from those wants. Okay, again, I can guarantee we're all guilty of it. We go to the supermarket, we'll generally set to maybe spend $40, $50, $60. Sometimes you might spend $80 or $90. Okay, yes, we are guilty of it, but you don't want to make that a regular habit. Another quirk, try not to shop when you're feeling hungry. Okay, that's a big thing because students will often shop when they've got that urge, you go down to IGA, you go down to Kensington off campus, you go on campus there, and you'll shop when you're hungry. You'll come home with things you're like, okay, I didn't want that, I didn't want that, I didn't want that. There's $20, $30, $40 that I could have saved elsewhere. Know when foods are cheap, so have a look around. So when you go through your supermarkets regularly, work out when specials will roughly be. Buy things in bulk when items are on special. Okay, so you'll get your red tags or yellow tags. You'll see the half price specials. You'll see the prices reduced. Buy a few of those. So instead of buying one, buy a few of those and stock them up so you've got them for next time. Choose, and they still taste delicious, choose home brands or basic brands when possible. Your Coles brand, your Woolies brand, because they're often cheaper. Okay, so buy them when possible. Explore cheaper shopping alternatives. You might split veggie boxes with friends. If you live with flatmates, split the shop. Okay, clear your purse out or your wallet if people still have cash. Whatever's in there, put it in a jar at the end of the week so you can still have that, okay, as savings. Another idea, plan your meals ahead. Okay, use your items that you've got possibly already in your pantry. See what you can kind of make with that, rather than kind of going out and buying things that you don't necessarily want. The important thing is to check your pantry thoroughly, because if you go out, you might already have that item in your pantry. It just might be kind of tucked away. So check that thoroughly before going out and unnecessarily buying as well. Keep some of those savings that you yourself have saved. Treat yourself at the end of the fortnight, end of the month, okay? So that can be for you as a bit of a kind of a pat on the back for you, what you've saved. Yeah, okay, I'm going to put it towards a little want that I can now afford. Okay, you don't have to go over the top, but that's a little bit of a treat for you at the end of the month or the end of the fortnight. Next slide, please, Paul. All right, so this kind of carries on from the last slide by being money savvy. This is some tips and tricks that students may not think of that generally can help you as a university student. If you've got a student card, look into where it can be used, okay, on transport, in restaurants, in movies, sporting events, in stores. Ask, see if concessions can be made. The savings may only be minor, but as a uni student, trust me, every bit helps. Think of alternate entertainment options as well. If you're heading out maybe 2 or 3 times a week, that can add up for you guys as uni students. Instead of going to a restaurant, invite friends over, invite your peers over, cook up a feast or cook up at a friend's house. Okay, so that'll save spending money on restaurants. Everyone cooks, more often than not, hopefully, there'll be leftovers. So you've got leftovers for lunch the next day, and leftovers taste delicious too, trust me. If you're going to a movie, have a movie night in instead. Okay, so rather than going to Points or or events or cinemas like that, have a movie night in. Okay, bring the popcorn there, bring the drinks there, rather than spending an extortionate amount on movie tickets these days, which is ridiculous. Have a movie night in once a week, once a fortnight. If you are going out, look for student nights or weekly specials. Okay, consider getting a group together if you've got kind of friends around that are close by. Restaurants, pubs will often have, okay, cheap meal deals on nights, student nights, discount nights, generally midweek meals. If you want, make it a thing every fortnight, every month. We'll meet at this pub at this time. It's steak night, it's schnitzel night, it's kind of curry night, meet there kind of thing. Pubs will often have that. And again, take a uni card because you might be able to get concessions there. As I was mentioning about lunch leftovers as well, if you can, with the stuff that you buy at the supermarket, bring lunch from home, okay? So if you're on campus, bring lunch from home, okay? Leftovers are fantastic the next day. It's healthy. You know what's gone into it. You're the cook or your friend's the cook. The same applies here for making coffee or tea. Yes, it's totally fine, okay, to buy that coffee a few times during the week, but you don't want to kind of oversell it. If you've got your own coffee or sometimes your own tea bags and you've got access to the student community rooms, bring in those as well as an idea. Bring it in a travel mug as well, so it's safe. And again, be realistic as a student and be willing to make sacrifices here and there. The reality is, again, as a university student, and I've gone through it, I'm sure others, I know that a lot of my mates have as well, money will often be limited while you are studying. Be realistic about what you can afford, again, what you need to afford, and be prepared to make some sacrifices as well. Okay, again, you don't want to get in the kind of habit of saying, okay, but he's bought this or she's buying this or that man looks great or they've come in with a new bag. Okay, yeah, they may have, but that might be within their means. Okay, you don't want to be the ones to kind of spontaneous buy. Live within your means so you can be financially de-stressed as much as possible. All right, next slide, Paul, please. As mentioned at the start, so we are student support advisors. What can we offer in terms of financial appointments? Right there. Okay, so 1 hour consultations, face-to-face, by phone, in an online world now, so through Teams or through Zoom as well. We have started seeing students again last term and this term in the John Goodsall building where we're based on campus, and our student support website, you can see when myself and the other advisors are actually on campus for face-to-face appointments. Our financial support appointments are all assessed on a case-by-case basis. Documentation is needed and required for assessments along with personal statements, okay? We will ask for further documentation if required to gain further understanding of situations. We've had, look, I know I've had over 3.5 years, a lot, especially over the last 18 months in regards to COVID, we've had a lot of financial support appointments and we try and help our students out as much as possible, but please, if you, through the application forms, the personal statement that you put down, your documentation needs to be mirrored and match what is said in that personal statement. So if you're mentioning rental struggle, put down the rental lease or the signed contract, okay? We do require the most recent bank statements, minimum of the last 60 days. And if there are other bank accounts linked to that statement, please upload those, just as it says there, so we can gain a clearer understanding of your situation. Look, if there's Centrelink struggles, upload Centrelink documentation. Okay, if there's bond struggles, upload bond documentation, just so the more evidence we have for your financial situation, the clearer it's going to be and the better summary we can present to our team leaders for that assessment. All right, next slide. Thank you, Paul. Furthermore, what can we provide as student support advisors, just so you all know? Accommodation support. So for emergency and crisis accommodation, we can refer students both to on and off campus accommodations. Self-efficacy and self-advocacy skills, so study skills, self-management skills in the form of procrastination, stress, low-level anxiety. The study skills may be particular to schedule, planning, a routine that suits you, time management, case management as well. So any students that go through critical incidents, students at risk, and that can be a whole range of situations. We're there to help you or support as much as possible, okay? Next slide, please, Paul. All right, lastly, where to find us. That's the links there, okay? So our student advisor link, there's the website, face-to-face, the John Goodsall ground floor. Book online, so student support advisors, wait at the lounge when you arrive. We do have drop-ins at the Nucleus and Student Hub in room 8, as far as I remember, and at COFA, Art and Design by appointment as well. And I think it's the last slide coming up now, Paul. Perfect. Alrighty. Do we have any questions out there?
Yeah, so if everybody would like to just have a look at, there's a speech box with a question mark on, and you're more than welcome to send us some questions. Okay, here's one. Any tips, Michael, for saving some money while you're on campus?
For staff or students?
For both. I'm thinking, yeah, maybe
more
might jump to maybe avoiding kind of bottled water.
Yeah, yes, definitely that. Look, sensibly, yeah, avoiding bottled water. Kind of going back to what I was saying a few slides ago. If you can get in a habit of cooking at home, finding those specials at the supermarkets, bring in some leftovers, bring in some lunch. Look, it doesn't have to be spectacular cooking, but if you can bring in some leftovers and some meals, that's going to save you by going down to Bottom Quad, by going to Matthews, by going to Penny Lane, or getting any of those meals there. Because look, as nice as they are, treat yourself occasionally 100%, but you don't want to get into that habit of relying on that. Finding specials around. Look, I'm not a coffee drinker personally. I know a lot of students are. There are some great coffee deals on campus. Look for the one that suits you. Look for a cheaper one. I guess there's some great ones to save on campus. You don't want to get sidetracked, again, by buying on things that you want. Like if you don't need those chips or those chocolates or that snack or that drink right there and then, try not to buy it. Willpower is a strong thing, I know, but have snacks ready with you in your bag. Have your water there, have your bars there, have your nuts there, just in your bag so it's kind of ready to go, so you won't be forced to kind of buy unnecessarily. And look, it may seem minor, but at the end of the week, it'll be $25, $30, $35, $40 that elsewise that you can save.
Excellent. I think we've got some microwaves on campus too if people are bringing on food. Is that right?
We definitely do. I think if you look in your respective faculties or student rooms as well, we know that students occasionally can use the microwave in the good cell as well. So if you need to just heat up your meals for a minute or two, use those. There are plenty of microwaves to access on campus.
Great, cool. So another question that's popped up, what do you recommend in terms of budgeting? Do you budget weekly, monthly, or annually, especially for a beginner?
Good question. Look, I'd recommend personally probably weekly or fortnightly. Generally budgeting, if you are working, kind of budget at the time that your salary comes in. So if you get paid weekly, try and budget weekly. If you get paid fortnightly, try and budget fortnightly, just so you know that when your income is coming in, every 2 weeks, you've got a certain budget to pay on certain things. Generally weekly or fortnightly, you get a bit of a better gauge. So I'd recommend weekly or fortnightly, especially as a beginner, because annually, that might be 12 months, might be too far down the track to kind of think. If you can kind of start off, okay, this is my weekly budget, this is my fortnightly budget, you get into a bit of a habit. So you know, okay, I know roughly I'm spending this much a fortnight. Okay, then I can save this much a fortnight. I'm spending next step, all right, this much a month. All right, then I can save this much a month. So probably weekly or fortnightly as a beginner.
Awesome. Another question that's popped in. There's a student that's working at the moment, and he's wondering how much is like a magic number to save each week as a percentage.
Ooh, it's the first time I've been asked that. I've done these presentations a lot of times. As a magic number, actually, can I put the question back on that student if possible? Is that student working, Paul? Do we know?
Yeah, working, yeah. Working.
The magic number to save a week, look, I would say if you can get to a 3-digit figure, roughly between say $100 to $200 a week, you're doing pretty well. Because then if you look towards that, that's $300, $400 a fortnight. Then that goes up to say $600, $700, $800 a month. It's a stretch. Even if you get to say 100, 150 a week, multiply that by 4, you're looking at 550, 600 a month. Okay, that's going to go towards a lot of excess needs that you might there might be those leaks that you need, or there might be unexpected expenses come up. There might be medical bills that come up. There might be an extra kind of kick on that internet bill. There might be an overdue fee and you think, okay, where am I going to get these funds from? Okay, bang, I've got an extra couple of hundred saved for that month. I don't have to stress. I know that I can actually put that towards that overdue bill, that extra kind of thing. And then again, you've got that little bit extra to put towards that treat with what you want. So if you can, as a starting point, try 100 as a minimum, because again, there's 400 a month that's saved.
Yeah, that kind of leads quite nicely into the next question, which is unforeseen costs. How do you deal with unforeseen costs?
Oh, run and hide. Look, I mean, there's ways, and we've actually should have mentioned this during the presentation. I'm glad that came up, especially now during COVID times. There might be unforeseen costs, unforeseen bills in regards to rent increases, rates, phone bills, bond, internet bills, things along those lines. Be polite but firm. You can kind of put the responsibility back on those providers. You can ask for payment freezes, for payment options in that sense. As long as they can see there's money coming in that term of those unforeseen kind of costs, feel free to ask them, what payment plans can I set up? Okay, what can I afford this month, and put it towards then. For the general unforeseen costs, I guess it's kind of a putting it back on you kind of thing. What are those unforeseen costs? Work out what savings you can afford. Put those savings towards those unforeseen costs. Okay, if you've got that little, as much as you can, try and have a little bit at your back pocket. So that's where it comes back to the savings. Try and not have those wants, spend as much as possible. Just focus on those needs. I mean, yes, in life, guilty of it as well, there's going to be unforeseen costs. There might be fines, parking fines. There might be, unforeseen expenses. There might be, as I said, extra phone bills, things along those lines. Negotiate, but mainly try and focus on your needs in regards to spending, as opposed to as much as you want. I know that was kind of a bit of a round way of answering it, but I hope that kind of got it on the right line. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. I think payment plans, breaking down the cost into smaller kind of bite size, is definitely great advice that you just gave.
It does, and especially sorry for interrupting there, Paul, especially with tuition fees as well. That's a big thing that we're aware of. We know that our tuition fees at uni, they can't offer waivers, they can't offer grants, they can't offer loans, but they are willing and open to discuss possible payment plans. So if that's becoming a bit of a financial struggle for some students, feel free to contact our fees team and just to discuss possible payment plans that are going to suit you as well. So keep that in mind.
Brilliant. Any apps that you recommend in terms of budgeting, or are you a big fan of old school pen and paper?
Look, I'm almost 40 this year, so I don't mind the old school pen and paper. There is, and I'm going to try and find it, a lot of your online net banking will have apps in regards to budgeting and money saving. I'm with CommBank, and I use that occasionally. It'll tell you when notifications, when bills are due, so you can tell when it's coming up, how much you need to save. There is a Money Saver app, which is through ANZ, which is brilliant as well. That's ones we've recommended to students a lot through the years, and it will pretty much set out a step-by-step guide onto budgeting, free financial counselling offering as well, and just what you need to do step by step to be money savvy.
Brilliant. I have a question actually. In your experience with students, what are some of the classic spending leaks that you experience that kind of trip students up that can be avoided?
That's a good question. I guess the classic spending leaks, a lot of the times, if students are looking to apply for kind of financial struggles, and we get their bank documents and go through their bank statements, clothing, takeaway foods, I guess excessive spending you can see regularly, be it on entertainment, be it on shoes comes up, unnecessary spending on a lot of on campus. Like, I mean, it might be $8, $9, $10 here at IGA or things like that, but that might be literally 9, 10, 11 times a week. Like I said, you might just duck in for a quick snack, a quick sandwich, a quick takeaway, and then you see through the week and you're like, okay, you spent $80, $90, $100 here straight away in that week. And then a lot of them, they don't realize, they think, oh, it's only like 4 or 5 times. So it's almost, I guess, it's a habit that has to be slowly broken. That'd be the big things. It comes up probably more often than not. Again, especially as I was saying, students who are looking to apply for grants or for loans, but we can see those spendings there, then we'll kind of politely but firmly suggest, no, look, this is what we may need to focus on in regards to budgeting first. You're not necessarily financially struggling. You just need to kind of adjust your spending a bit. So it's the unnecessary food, unnecessary entertainment, unnecessary, I guess, over on-campus purchasing as well. And look, we're adults here. There'll be unnecessary entertainment or going out purchases in regards to, say, alcohol or concerts. You can see that happens a lot of the times as well. And just kind of working out what the priorities are and they need to go towards.
Makes a lot of sense. Do you think it's worth the exercise of going back through like your bank statements and having a look at what you've actually been spending your money on?
It's a good habit. It does, because especially if students down the track want to apply for a loan, either be it through us or be it through a bank, or when you get older through a car loan or a personal loan, through things like that, they will look at those kind of spendings with a fine-tooth comb. Trust me, talking from experience. So it does kind of go back, and even if you're transferring from a savings account to a Visa account or a credit account, they'll see, okay, why did you transfer from this to this? Where is this going, kind of thing. So it's definitely worth going over and just getting into the habit, so you can see, okay, what did I spend it on? Why am I $300 less this month? Why am I $500 less this month? And you can go back over the statements, think, okay, I spent more here, or I spent more on the night out, or I bought this purchase when I really didn't need to, kind of thing. Oh, okay, there was that afterpay that keeps coming out that I forgot about that purchase. So it definitely pays to kind of go back over, and that's why we ask for the most latest 2 or 3 month bank statements, so we get an idea, we can see exactly what regular spendings are happening, and we can have that financial talk and budgeting and kind of, I guess, mention to the students, okay, if we kind of cut down this, this and this in a more regular way, think of the savings you can put that towards it. Elsewise, you could spend on a need, on a rent, on bond, on the next bill, and you can have that money in your back pocket.
Brilliant. So just one last question.
Mm-hmm.
A student is pretty bad at budgeting at the moment. Obviously, with experience comes knowledge. How do you start to turn around, I suppose, budgeting perhaps from the first time to then really getting your budgeting under control and being a bit more, I think you put it, financially savvy?
It comes down to, I guess it's more so, it's willpower and spending within your means. That's the thing, knowing what your income is, knowing what you can afford to spend that week or that fortnight, and being pretty strict with your money to start with. If they are really struggling, I would highly recommend coming and make an appointment with us, because we can have consultations, 45 minutes up to 60 minutes, and go through your budgets, go through your bank statements, write down, or go through the Money Saver app, go through, again, old school pen and paper and write it down. And so they can actually visually, and it works a lot of the time, so they can visually see when it's written down or on their notes on their phone, this is my income, this is my outgoings, okay, what do I really need to budget and focus on? And then it will slowly, generally become a habit after a while. It takes practice, it really does, but you've got to be committed to it. And again, as I said, you guys are uni students, you're allowed to be savvy, and for want of a better term, you're allowed to be tight with your money for a few years, because you need to save and put those towards rent, bills, on-campus accommodation, living, groceries, and working out what your priorities are. That's the big thing, working out what your spending priorities are for these few years, and then gradually building off that.
And I think it's a really transferable skill later on into life. Would you agree?
100 million trillion %. It really is. And I know that personally, going through with myself and my wife, through personal loans, through mortgages, things like that, and going through, I guess it just comes into habit. It's old school, just kind of going through that budget, that list, negotiating payment plans, speaking to those providers, looking out for specials, looking out for what is best going to suit you within your budget. It pays dividends, trust me, in the long run. And look, yes, being realistic, you grow up at times. There are going to be times when finance is going to be a big stress. It's a known factor through life that finance is going to be stressed. if you can budget for it in the best possible way, then it will gradually become less of a burden and more of like a known experience for you. But yeah, you've got to start somewhere, and to be honest, it starts with you as a student. No one's going to push you or pull you or tempt you in the right direction. You're the one who's going to save that money. You're the one who's got to start somewhere. That starts with number one, about budgeting and working out what are my needs. I don't necessarily need those wants yet. I'm going to push myself and actually just develop that little bit of willpower bit by bit, and yeah, start saving. You've got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. Okay, I think there's no other questions in the chat box, so I think everybody's had their questions answered. Big thank you to Michael. I wish I'd had you present this information to me at the beginning of my university journey. I might have ended up with a little bit more money in my back pocket, but it's never too late. And thanks so much for the workshop today. Just like to say thanks to all of the attendees as well for coming along to the workshop today. We've got some other Prepping for Success workshops that are going to be going throughout O Week and into weeks 1 and 5 in term 2. So feel free to sign up for some of the other workshops. Otherwise, thanks everybody. Thanks again, Michael. And that will be the close for today.
Perfect. You're welcome, Paul. Thank you, students. As I said, any questions that you've got, feel free to make an appointment with us and we will be very, very happy to help.
Excellent. Thank you. One last thing. I know that everybody hates filling in evaluations, but evaluations really help us kind of make things better for our students in the long run. So we'll be sending across some evaluations, and please feel free to fill them in for us. Thank you then, and goodbye, and hope you enjoy the rest of our week.